Hey YouTube, this is Team APS here with a discussion video. What if the zones mattered?
Yes, those zones where you place your monsters, those columns.
Where you place your spells.
Let's talk about it.
So, we all know about the basic zones. You got your 5 monsters, your 5 speller traps, your pendulum zones, your graveyard, your banish, which wasn't even really a zone at first, but now it is.
Yeah, it might as well be.
And a lot of people don't know is once you play a card in a zone, it's locked into that spot. You're not supposed to move it. You can't switch it around. You can't randomize your cards.
A thing that many people
they do.
That's a rule that gets broken a lot.
Actually, not allowed.
Now, what we were thinking though is, how cool would it be if there was like an archetype of, monster spells, traps, whatever, that actually were based on manipulating those zones.
They could move around.
They could move, they could get different effects or dodge things based on that. So we did a little bit of research and checked out the existing cards that already use this mechanic.
And they are weird cards.
They're weird, they're quirky. We're gonna quickly go through them.
That sounds like a whole other video.
I like you. Alien Infiltrator. Actually, not even it doesn't even work with the alien cards.
Nope, it just has alien in the
name.
name.
It's like 800 attack. Once per turn, this card can move to an adjacent unoccupied monster card zone.
Now, when we say adjacent means to move to the next one over. It can't, not backwards, over.
Because someone will think so.
They will think that.
So, once per turn, it can move to an adjacent unoccupied monster card zone. If no spell, trap, or monster card on your opponent's side of the field is in the same column as this card, it can attack your opponent directly. So, seems like that could be really cool. I mean, only has 800 attack.
Now,
but the idea is neat.
Can I point out that this card sounds a lot like chess? As if it's a pawn. You know how basically if there's nothing blocking a pawn on a chessboard, it can just go straight and turn into like a queen.
Right. I think that there's a lot of potential there. I mean, imagine if this thing was actually bigger. It had 1900 attack. Mm-hmm. And then it could just attack your opponent directly if they didn't have a direct... So even if they had say, a monster over here,
you just dodge it.
You're just dodging it.
And there are card games that play like that, where the columns, the zones
actually matter
to blocking your life points or your life cards or whatever they're called.
Another card, Blasting Fuse, is a trap. Activate only when all 4 zones of this card's column are occupied. Destroy all cards in this column.
So when we say all 4 cards in a column, we mean your opponent's spell or trap, your opponent's monster, your monster, and then this card, all in the same.
Yeah, so it's neat. It's kind of like it just detonates and destroys everything in front of it. Sucks that you have to lose a monster in that process. Although I guess later in this video we'll mention if you had an archetype of monsters that could run from that would be really cool.
But I want to say what's kind of cool so far is this adds a visual representation to the game, because it's very because we're just used to kind of just reading effects
and just play your card wherever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But now when it matters where they are, you're actually looking at the board and you're seeing how this card lines up, destroys all these cards in this line. You can move this card to the left and attack straight and do damage.
It makes it feel like a tabletop game for a change.
Yeah, it does sound similar.
Next is a monster, Rampaging Rhinos. It's a level 3 Beast Warrior. Once per turn, this card can move to an adjacent and occupied monster card zone. If this card attacks the monster in its same column, it gains 500 attack during the damage step. So it normally has 1500 attack, but when it attacks something else... Hi, Alex. When it attacks something else, it gains 500, so it'll become 2000. So cool, it's kind of stronger.
Strong.
Neat concept. I mean, obviously...
It would need to be a more of an impressive monster.
Have some other effects. So not much to say on him. Then there's Senate Switch. It's a spell. Once per turn during your main phase, you can move 1 monster on your side of the field to an adjacent monster card zone. Slow and kind of meh.
And for the life of me, I can't figure out how that's useful in the current game.
Yeah, it actually, as YuGiOh is now, it's nothing.
It can't really help.
It really means nothing, but...
What if your opponent played MST and you move the card and so MST misses?
That's what I want to get into here in a sec, actually. I think that's where some cool concepts can come in. And then lastly, we've got Storm Shooter. It's a level 7, so it's kind of hard to summon. Once per turn, you can select and activate one of these effects. First effect, move this card to an adjacent unoccupied monster card zone. We know.
Adjacent.
Second effect, return 1 spell, trap, or monster card on your opponent's side of the field in the same column as this card to its owner's hand. That could be really cool.
Wait, was that a non-targeting effect?
I guess so, yeah. Doesn't target. So those are the only 5 cards in Yu-Gi-Oh that actually use that. There's technically that spell Shifting Shadows, which lets you like reorganize your set monsters, but we're I guess not counting that. Now, where could, as an archetype, how could this be a more cohesive thing?
So my first problem with this is that this kind of requires kind of a rule change in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Right.
So I would say we would need like a continuous spell or a field spell
probably.
that would add a set of rules so that these cards can kind of do their thing.
I mean, I was thinking the monsters themselves could have this same just once per turn it can switch thing, like move to an adjacent zone.
Yeah.
That would give them all the mechanic built in, sort of.
But and I said that actually helps because I was saying about the field spell can say monsters can only attack monsters that are directly
I see what
in
you're
front
saying.
of them.
That's genius, actually. That would be a really good thing. I was thinking too, like let's say it's some archetype based off of like alien invaders, not the alien archetype that exists, but it's like outer invaders type of thing. Mm-hmm. So their ability is sort of like they can dodge things by going between zones. I thought it would be really cool if like one of them had an effect where it can only be targeted by cards that are in its same zone. So if your opponent has a set, some dead trap back there in the same column that it's in, then they can't activate like a shrink or a forbidden chalice or a compulsory because it's not in that same zone. So it can't be targeted by stuff that's not in that same column.
Oh, and what if they had the monsters had the Cosmo quick effect where they move?
Yeah.
So
either player's turn, you can run.
Yeah. It's like they flip I don't know. Let's say
compulse or
Book
and you
just
Moon or something.
Move.
Yeah, you run. And I mean, it could be balanced. It could be like once per turn, but still during either player's turn. So you can still dodge stuff.
But I feel like we missed an opportunity because like I feel like the best archetypes for this would have been things based off chess or shogi,
that actually
or even
would be
checkers,
better, wouldn't it?
But we already have like shogi knight, and no one really knows what that's supposed to do.
You mentioned earlier about some pendulums and other card effects that like lock down zones.
Yeah,
that could be another thing that could
Zany Zebra.
Yeah. What's that do? Or roughly?
I might even got his name wrong, but I think it's Zany Zebra, and it's a pendulum monster, and I think its monster and pen effects are the same. It locks out a monster zone or a spell trap zone. That's what it does.
It kind of makes me
once per turn, I think too.
I feel like this could really make great synergy when like the monsters, when like your opponent's zones are locked or their columns are locked, then that actually completely could shut them out from like using cards that could stop you. I mean, imagine if there were even monsters with effects where like Dark Hole wouldn't affect them necessarily if it wasn't the same thing. Like a monster just was unaffected by stuff that's not in the same column.
See, but then I feel like cards like Dark Hole and Mirror Force, actually they somehow get around those types of effects.
Yeah, that's true. It's blanket removal. Mm-hmm. I also think of things where like maybe
God, Ojama's sound annoying in the situation.
Ground Collapse and like Ojama King and all that. Yeah, the ones that eat up zones, that could be a thing. I feel like also, now how could this maybe work with like pendulums or synchros or Xyz? I haven't really put a whole lot of thought, just preliminarily.
I mean, pendulums, they could probably give boosts to like certain columns. If all columns are treated as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and
or the 2 columns beside it, like their boss monster or something. Like the 2 columns beside it get like a buff or something.
And then, like, as far as synchros and stuff, like boss monsters, they can just, they show up and they'll say, the monster directly in front of it loses so-and-so attack, and the monsters next to it, they gains that attack.
Oh, they could go full-on stun and just make it like everything in this column is negated.
No effects in this column.
I feel like that'd be fitting for a boss monster. Yeah. Right? Like, anything that's in this column, its effect gets negated. Like monsters in this column, their effects are negated. They can't attack. Back rows can't even be activated, maybe, or they're like negated or something.
And since Yu-Gi-Oh really is just a grid, you could even say everything in an X shape around this card. So like if you play dead middle, you would get the cards. Diagonally in front, and then I guess the cards diagonally back.
Yeah, that could be really cool. I feel like there's potential here. I feel like what it really takes is just for it to be an archetype itself. Not this sort of ragtag mishmash.
Just random cards that happen to do something.
That sort of do it. And they were all really old too, so the power creep means that
they just can't
couldn't have been
anything.
relevant.
They didn't do anything back then, and they really
they certainly aren't doing anything now. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, tell us your thoughts.
If you have any ideas for like how a column sort of zone-based archetype could work, let us know. We have actually done quite a few of these videos. I was looking back. We've done
Gemini.
Union.
Spirit.
And we also did Dice, Dice and LV monsters.
LV?
Yeah, we've actually, just the two of us, have literally done videos on like all those, imagining how they could work.
And Konami has redone just about all of those now.
Yeah, suspiciously, after we did the Union one, ABCs got announced. After we did the Gemini one, then we got Chemic Critters.
Like, just things keep happening.
Even after doing the LV one, Silent Swordsman got support.
It did get support, that's true.
So, if Konami does this, you heard it here first. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, subscribe. Check out social media and other stuff down in the description. TCG Player is the sponsor. And this month, we are giving away a box of Raging Tempest, so enter that giveaway down there. And yeah, that's going to be it. We're going to move off to another column, and I didn't think this joke through. So,
apps out.
Bye. Great, we're done. That worked.
We're gonna move to another column.
I need a life.